Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week. And we got to start with a huge thank you to each and every one of you guys because we made it to 100,000 subscribers. We did it on Christmas Day, no less, 2024. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you because without your support, my dream would never have happened. I consider each day a blessing. I consider each video that I get to record a blessing. And thank you so much for all your continued support, guys. It means the world to me. I got huge plans for 2025. I'm looking to do like an update video or some sort of update eventually to kind of give you a bit of an idea of what my plans are. I got a lot of different projects in the works. I'm really trying to diversify my content offerings simply because I want to do some fun stuff. I want to get back to the fun in 2025. And I think Marvel Snap's probably going to turn a corner. I'm looking forward to the future of Snap, but I want to start by saying thank you for sincerely supporting me through these years. Let's get started with the decks. We're going to start with Bruce Banner. This is a bonus deck because Bruce Banner is not in the top 10. It's also worth noting that Bruce Banner is going to be the one for the weekend mission. You're going to get the tokens. So this is a relatively inexpensive deck that you can utilize to get that Bruce Banner value. And this is my preferred deck. I do like Luna Snow in it. Obviously, when you're playing Bruce Banner, you're coping pretty hard as it is. But regardless, I do think that, this deck can get you those 4 wins and not sacrifice too much MMR. As we go into our top 10 here, I got to tell you, there's something I want to kind of explain. We're doing these a little differently here. For numbers 10 to 6, we're going to be using statistics from the last, basically untapped top 50% infinite since the latest patch. And then 5 to 1, we're going to be using top 50% infinite untapped in the last 7 days. So the next decks you're going to see here are going to be the ones over the last kind of like 2 weeks since the patch, and then the next ones are the next 7 days. So the win rates are going to kind of shift as we shift between since the last patch and the last 7 days. Mill and discard, 57% win rate in a 0.42 cube rate. Honestly, it's performing very well. It's a cool deck. Now, it's actually not my preferred version of discard. It is more of like a disruption-based deck. I do like the idea of playing Negasonic. However, I did find that I often did not have initiative with this deck because of Yondu and Fenris being the primary one to play. But overall, I do think the Negasonic could provide a very interesting surprise play if you manage to get initiative going into turn 6, because you might have an inexpensive stature, you might have free swarms, etc. Right? So very interesting deck from that standpoint, performing particularly well. In my testing though, honestly, I like traditional discard better, but if you want a new flavor of discard, this is one that you can turn to. Going into number 9, it's a Little Movers, still doing a great job, 57% win rate, 0.38 cube rate. Frigga doing wonders in this deck here. I was actually testing this here, and I'm like, man, Frigga is so good in this deck, especially when you consider the amount of value you can generate from the Human Torch, bringing it back, playing it down, moving it around, etc. Just a good deck. Now, obviously, the play lines are a little more complex, so you need to apply a little bit of practice. If you pick up this deck for the first time and expect to just start clapping noobs, then you're probably going to get a little disappointed because, quite frankly, it's going to take a little bit of practice. You're going to throw probably your first 20 games until you start to get the hang of this particular list. But it is high performing. We have a move deck that's legitimately at a 57% win rate and a 0.38 cube rate. That is solid, right? So you take that. You take that. So if you're a move gamer, you're eating pretty well, all things considered, at number 9. Going to number 8 here, we have Surfer. I mean, listen. I'm just putting a smile on my face. I love playing Surfer. What I really love about this deck is not only the 58% win rate, 0.40 cube rate, but it runs America Chavez. So you're leaning so heavy into this buff Surfer. You got Chavez, you got Okoye, you got Nakia, you have Fastos. These are all buff cards. You got Makari, Galacta. It's crazy. This deck does not have Gwenpool, does not have Sarah, and it's clapping. It's all about the buffs, and if you happen to hit that Brood, it's huge. Now, what this deck is missing is Absorbing Man, and I was testing this deck because obviously I'm going to test a deck that's a Silver Surfer absolute banger, and I almost want to include the Absorbing Man because Absorbing Man's cool with Nakia, it's cool with obviously your Red Guardian, Fastos, obviously Brood, right? So I do think that if you're missing a card, if you don't have Copycat, I think that putting Absorbing Man's fine. I probably will end up cutting Copycat here for Absorbing Man. I don't know if it's cope, but I really do like Absorbing Man in these decks. But you can't lie with the stats. 58% win rate, 0.40 cube rate. That is phenomenal since the most recent patch, top 50% infinite. So this Surfer deck's performing? Heck yeah, so definitely give it a shot. Is Chavez cope? Probably. Let's be honest. It's probably cope. But hey, the stats don't lie. Coming in at number 7, we have a very high-performing Destroy deck. Now, this one had a fair number of games on it, a 59% win rate, and a 0.62 cube rate, which is remarkably high. It is a Destroy deck using Agony, it's using Deadpool, and Lady Deathstrike. And it's awesome because, like, it's just a good list. Like, it's just a very good list. And you have so many snap conditions here, right? And I like the idea of using Null as a legitimate closer because it is, it's just, I don't know, man. When you got Lady Deathstrike, you have Null, you're able to kind of sneak out the Deadpool alongside of the Null. Usually you destroy enough to get death. Like, you have this like triple threat on turn 6 if you're destroying something like an X-23 on the prior turn. You get Deadpool, you get Null out, hopefully death is free. Like, it's a tremendous amount of power. It's just a very concise deck to play, and I feel like people have been sleeping on Destroy lately. And when you see a deck like this that's running a 59% win rate and a 0.62 cube rate, maybe we shouldn't be sleeping on it. Maybe we should be playing it more. And so I want to kind of showcase this because it is an absolute banger statistical deck. So give it a shot if you haven't played some Destroy in a while. Going in to number 6, and this will be the top deck since the most recent patch. It is a 60% win rate deck at a 0.47 cube rate, and it is going to be its Cannonball Junk. It's Cannon Clog. And it's utilizing Copycat. Now, Copycat doesn't always make these decks, but Copycat's making this one. You have the Titania into the Green Goblin. What I think makes this deck particularly effective is the US Agent and the counterplay it provides against Doom 2099. Doom 2099 is aging very well. You're going to be seeing a lot of Doom 2099 in the upcoming discussions in the top 5. It is a very good deck. This deck collapse Doom 2099. You take away space with debris. You cause problems with the Viper in the hood. Obviously, you have the Cannonball play, right? You have so much to your advantage here that if you're playing as a 2099 player, you just snap, right? You just snap because you're going to smash them. They're just not going to beat you. And that's what's kind of elevating the particular stats on these types of decks. And we saw it last week as well, that Clog was an absolute top performer. Now, some people are moving away from some of the 2099 decks. Have they been experimenting with some of the other ones? Not as much Bruce Banner, but the meta has shifted slightly. But the top performing statistical decks are going to feature a lot of 2099. And which we're going to be moving to right now into the top 5. Moving to the top 5, and a reminder, we're switching things up a little bit here. So the first 5 decks were the last, kind of since the most recent patch, top 50% infinite. Now we're on to the last 7 days, top 50% infinite, according to Untapped. At a 56% win rate and a 0.38 cube rate, we have the War Machine 2099 deck. This does not surprise me. In fact, this is essentially, well, minus Ebony Maw, what I had been showcasing when I was playing kind of a lot of the testing around 2099. And it's good. It's a great deck. You're utilizing Storm, you got the Legion, you got the War Machine, but most importantly, you're shutting down locations, and it's great when you hit that Zabu, you bring out, or Psylocke, and you bring out Storm on turn 3. That extra stats she has does make it feel impactful, and also you have obviously the War Machine that can make use of the Infinite. But this is just a good Doom 2099 deck because you're just going to generate a ton of value over time. I think Super Scroll gets subbed out of this deck. And I think that like Super Scroll's great right now because the mirror matches are pretty frequent. But as Doom 2099 kind of comes down a little bit because people just kind of, I want something new. We want the new shiny card to play with. Super Scroll comes out, something else comes in. Generally speaking though, the deck has been performing very well. And War Machine as a whole, honestly, is still good. It got nerfed from like the actual pinnacle of the meta, but still it's been legitimate. And something like 2099 has really helped elevate it back into the meta. So number 5 is going to be War Machine's version of 2099. Then we have another version of 2099, and it's going to be the Scream version. Now, we've known Scream to be a very good deck for some time, but one of the problems with the Scream decks was like, if you don't get Scream, then like, what are you doing? Everything else just kind of like doesn't matter and falls apart. This deck has an alternate win condition. You have the Scream stuff where you play Scream or you play Crave and you start swinging stuff around the board. But then you have the, I didn't draw Scream. I can still play 2099. I can still play Doctor Doom. I got the Magneto play, which is still impactful. You got a lot of interesting tools. You also have Sandman, which is a very disruptive force in the meta because we are seeing a reemergence of some of the Athena decks, the Kitty Pryde decks, especially since one of the ones we're going to be talking about shortly, which utilizes a lot of multiple cards, inexpensive cards. And so the Sandman tends to be a very good tech near the top of the meta. But regardless, I think this is a fascinating approach to Scream. It's performing exceptionally well from a win rate perspective, but I will warn you that the cube rates at 0.25 is a little on the lower end. So maybe we're not at the final list yet. Maybe we're not quite there because there's higher cube rate performing decks available. We're going to get into them right now as we go into our top 3. And it should surprise you, or should not surprise you, that Galacta is going to be amongst the top 3 decks. Now, Galacta has been great, and it adds 2099, and believe it or not, it's still good. This might be frustrating for some people saying, hey, Alex, you're in the top 5. So far, you've only talked about 2099. Now, I promise we're going to get to some other decks too. Well, one mainly that I think is an absolute banger. But yeah, 2099 has proven to be an absolute banger card, and this is another take on it. Hydration Robert makes this deck, which is great, because remember a couple weeks ago, we had like Hydration Robert in like 3 decks. Well, now he's in this one. Still features Super Scroll, which I do think ultimately gets subbed out, but with this video, I think it's showcasing that like 2099 is a legitimate force in the meta, and so Super Scroll still has a spot. You got the Legion in here as a nice splash play here, but Galacta just provides so much damn value, especially with Zabu coming out. Like, it's just, you play Galacta on turn 3 and it's gravy for the rest of the game, right? It's literally a snap condition. Copycat is fun in this deck. Oh man, I kind of joke about Copycat not feeling like a shell of its former self, but it's still a remarkably good card, right? And I've kind of gotten over my feelings on Copycat because it honestly is great. So this deck at number 3, this should not surprise anyone. You add Galacta to a deck gets better. Surprise, surprise. Going to number 2, it's Toxic. Now, it's funny because like Ajax has been on the periphery of the meta, hasn't even been near the top of the meta for some time. You also have Anti-Venom doing well here and Malekith. This feels like an expensive deck. This was one of those decks where it's like, hey, do you want Ajax? Well, do you want to spend 6k tokens on him and Malekith and Anti-Venom just so you can build one list? It's kind of hard. And so like these decks often have very low play rates, but very good stats. 58% win rate, 0.43 cube rate, very strong over the last 7 days, untapped, top 50%. It's a very good deck. The problem is it doesn't see the play because a lot of people don't have all the pieces. It's hard to invest in all of the pieces that are in this deck, right? Especially since Valentina has been available in Spotlight Cash and stuff, but it's not like a chase card. And although it's actually performing well in this deck because you do have the Luke Cage and stuff. Overall, US Agent also does a very good job in this deck. Malekith, great as well for something like, you play the Malekith and then all the procs of the 2099s come down and you kind of pump them and mitigate the effect a little bit. It's a good deck. It's performing well. Just doesn't see a lot of play, despite the fact that it has a tremendous statistical advantage over a lot of the decks in the meta. And that takes us to our number 1 deck of the week. Usually here I say, sup guys, we're getting to 100,000, but you know what you guys do? Maybe just hit that like button this week. Maybe we just hit the like button this week as we move to our number 1 deck, and it's Agent Havoc. This deck is so good. A 59% win rate, 0.38 cube rate. I've had so much fun playing this deck. Honestly, Havoc, not Cope here. It is legit. Agent Venom really activates this list. Red Guardian gives you the counterplay that you need for the meta. Cosmo is a lot of fun as well. Not as great into the 2099 stuff. It does prevent Doomplay perhaps, but still a lot of interesting tech here, a lot of tech pieces, a lot of disruption pieces, and overall there's a lot of sneaky value. I'm getting massive Havocs. Having a 2-3 Havoc come out and just like tick up massively, you don't need all that energy. You can play cards down. Kitty Pryde's fantastic here. Bass is fantastic here. There are so many this is just a fantastic deck. If you're going to play anything this week, I really do think you play this one here. And you have the Agent 29 to help kind of mitigate some of the effect of the 2099 decks. So did I say Agent 2099? I meant US Agent. I don't even know what I said, but US Agent, very good in this deck as well. Honestly, this is the deck to play if you're looking to rank up in Marvel Snap this week. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Once again, thank you so much for all your support. Hitting 100,000 subscribers. Seriously, it has been a dream come true. And we'll see you on the next Marvel Snap video.